Codemasters and EA have released a new patch for F1 24. The AI in the game has been modified, and I tested races and qualifying sessions to verify changes. Because aside from small details, one of the biggest problems this game has been modified, and we are talking about the AI. And to see for myself, I've been testing different races and qualifying sessions on various circuits to check out the supposed changes the AI has undergone. However, before we get into the important stuff, I'm going to mention the small changes that have also been introduced in this patch, which you'll find from now on in the game. Starting with the visuals, we have changes to the liveries of the Williams, Haas, and McLaren teams. In the Williams, you'll now see the new global sponsors, Global and Mercado Libre. The Haas has also had a change, since as you all know, the rear wing now has the Toyota Gazoo racing sticker, and also Orion 180, which we will also now find on the Haas. And as for the McLaren, the dark trace logos are supposed to have been recolored. And this is what we have regarding the liveries. Other than that, a couple of changes have been added to the Las Vegas circuit. The ray tracing seems to have improved only on PS Pro, and well, a few other graphical tweaks that aren't going to change your life. So let's move on to what's really important, the change in the AI. Because according to Codemasters themselves in their update forum, the AI, that is, the difficulty of the AI, mind you, between 101 and 110 has been increased to provide a more challenging experience for players. What does this mean? Well, it means that if you set a difficulty between 101 and 110, that is, anything below 101 shouldn't feel any different, but if you set it between 101 and 110, you should notice that from now on your races are tougher than before. I want to point out one thing before I start with the comparison and my feelings about the new AI. Making performance comparisons of an AI is really complex, because in the end, every race is very different. There aren't two identical races. And it's really complicated to compare conditions that are genuinely different due to race situations, strategies, tires, 1,000 things. What I first thought was to make a comparison based on lap times. Doing a qualifying session on a circuit, comparing with my bus times. I don't think it's a good idea because the performances have been changing. And the second reason why I haven't done a proper time comparison is that it's true the AI doesn't always set the same times. You can do a session at the same difficulty 4 times, and you'll find 4 different times from your teammate. So you might be wondering now, how are you going to compare? The first thing I encountered when I opened the game was a new challenge, where you have to fight your way back with Verstappen, simulating the scenario, as I mentioned before, from Belgium 2022, where Verstappen had to come back from last place. I thought it was a really good idea to try it at maximum difficulty. And what you're seeing is the first lap of that race with the Red Bull. It's true that it's the Red Bull, it's true that we're on soft tyres and the rest, most of them are on mediums. Yes, that's all correct. But the reality is that this is a circuit where I don't usually play at 110. I play close to 110. It's true, I play at 108, and occasionally 109. I think the last one was at 109, but this one I did at 110. And what did I find? First lap at max difficulty, progressing easily. Increasing difficulty should be noticeable. Patch increases difficulty, making the challenge greater. As I said, you have to keep in mind that we are in a very fast car, with better tires than our rivals. Yeah, alright, but the point here is that I should notice, having increased the difficulty by 1 or 2 points from what I usually play at on this circuit, if you really add to that the fact that, in theory, this patch has increased the difficulty, the challenge should be greater. I should notice a significant jump here compared to what I've played before on this circuit, and you'll see that I'm making jumps during the race, so you can see that we're having a completely normal race where I'm not falling behind, I'm still making progress. It's true that when I reach the final part of the race and catch up with the leaders, I struggle a bit to keep up with their pace, and to be honest, I might end up losing a few tenths to the guys in front. That's also correct. In the final part of the race, I'm on worse tyres than them. So the feeling is that I wasn't out of the race. And I think if there really has been a change in difficulty, and it's more challenging now, as Codemasters says, I should have encountered a problem with the difficulty here. I found it a tricky race, yes. I think I was a little bit behind my direct rivals in the end, yes. But I think that wasn't what had to happen. My first impression, as you can see, was not brilliant, but obviously I had to keep trying things, and so I went to a normal Grand Prix to keep trying. I went to the Italian Grand Prix, which is a race I did in my career mode literally 5 or 6 days ago, just before the patch. I did a Grand Prix in my career mode with the Ferrari, being teammates with Charles Leclerc. And here I did a test by running an identical Grand Prix with Carlos's Ferrari, also having Leclerc as my teammate, and I set exactly the same difficulty. What difficulty did I have in career mode? I had a difficulty of 107. It was the same as I set for this race. I thought, I'm going to put the same difficulty I had in my career mode. In qualifying, what were the feelings? Well, you can see the final result of a short qualifying session is that I ended up behind. It's true, Leclerc beat me, and I finished several positions back. He put 4/10 on me. The thing is, about 5 or 6 days ago, in this same qualifying session, Leclerc put 3/10 on me as well. Here he put 4/10 on me, but in the end, like I said, you have to take this with a pinch of salt, because Leclerc might have done a better lap here than he did against me the other day. It seems very subtle, but well, a 10th more in qualifying. And what did we find in the race? Well, I have to say that what I found in the race was quite similar to what I encountered 5 or 6 days ago with the old AI. In other words, it was a race where I was a bit off the pace compared to the front.
Using DRS,
I could keep up with the front pace, but I knew I was just a little bit off. It's exactly the same thing that happened to me 5 or 6 days ago with the same difficulty. 5 or 6 days ago, I had a race here in Monza, where my closest rivals were also faster than me and left me behind. I lost the pace with them. I finally managed to get back into it due to certain circumstances, but the Zweitorsendyne, the feeling was extremely similar to what I encountered in this race. This race ends up pretty much the same way. The difference is that this is a 25% race, in which, well, I put on a used soft tyre and at the end of the race, it's true that I lose a bit of ground. But the feelings in the end, that's what's important. As I said, in the end, it's all about feelings, about saying, well, with this same difficulty 5 days ago, what situation did I find myself in? I can tell you about my experience. And my experience so far is that in these 2 races I've tried, Belgium and Italy, I don't notice much difference in qualifying. You can feel it a bit. Yes, that's true. You could say that in Belgium, I had a bit more difficulty. Maybe more than I expected. I don't know. Like I said, in the end, I also pushed a bit harder than I usually do. 2 more points. It's complicated. Here in Monza, I would dare say it might be a bit more difficult. Well, I don't know. I don't know if I should say yes or no. The difference is that subtle. In qualifying, you might notice it more, because in the end, those laps are measured to the thousandth, and in a race, you depend on a lot of factors. If you're enjoying the video and finding what you're watching useful, I'd really appreciate it if you could subscribe and hit the bell so you don't miss any content. After this, I wanted to try a couple of quick 5-lap races, just to test the demands in those short races. Let's see, maybe if you really push it, you might notice the difference a bit more. First of all, I did one in Abu Dhabi with Hamilton's Mercedes. A few days ago, I also did a race in Abu Dhabi. In this case, it was at 100% duration, but I did it with the previous patch, and I must say that the AI in Abu Dhabi is really tough. It was already tough before the patch. In the race with Hamilton, I have to say that it's true I struggled for a couple of laps, but then again, I had the same issues about 5 or 6 days ago. With the race I did in Carlos's Ferrari, I also did a race. I also had a tough time at one point in Newsend, with a Ferrari on good tyres. Rivals were really giving me a run for my money. Rivals that, in theory, shouldn't have been able to. Finally, with the hard tyre, things changed. But what I mean is that, yes, I struggled a bit with Hamilton, for a couple of laps, but then in the end, it seems like I managed to get my rhythm back a bit. But in the race itself, I don't see any major differences either. It's still difficult, just like it was before. Alright, maybe it's a little bit more, I insist, but the differences are just too subtle. The question is,
has Codemasters explained it well?
Because if you check the patch update notes in the description of this AI change, it clearly states that following community feedback, an adjustment has been made to increase that extra bit of difficulty at the higher difficulty levels. This results in a difference of about a 10th per lap against the AI at level 110. Well, they've said it's from 101 to 110, but here they specify 110, and of course, the difference is going to vary depending on the circuit. So, are we saying that Codemasters is probably delivering what they mentioned in the patch? The answer is yes. The answer is that this 10th probably does exist. As I've said, I've felt it in a couple of qualifying sessions that it's the case. And in fact, here's another piece of evidence. He's done a couple of laps, a couple of qualifying sessions at maximum difficulty in Austria, this time with the Aston Martin. It's another circuit where I usually don't play at 110, I do it at 107, so I've added 3 more difficulty points than I usually play, plus the extra difficulty that this patch is supposed to bring. What have I seen in qualifying? Obviously Lance Stroll has literally crushed me in these qualifying sessions. Maybe that extra 10th we're getting from this change in difficulty could be there. I mean, that 10th could really exist. And this is much harder to notice in the race. 1,000 things happen in a race. You'll see gameplay from the Austrian race with Fernando's Aston Martin. On this Austrian circuit, Zweitorsendyne, I increased the difficulty by 3 points with the new AI. But I didn't notice a jump in difficulty. I say the same as in Belgium. I think I should have noticed something more. However, I did a final test on a circuit where I've actually played at 110 a couple of times, because the AI isn't very strong there, and we're talking about the Jeddah circuit. Lando Norris schooled me in qualifying. In a short session with 3 attempts, he put half a second on me at a high difficulty level. So, in a short qualifying session where I had 3 attempts, Lando Norris put half a second on me at a difficulty level where I can definitely say I've played at 110, and I've raced there at 110 against Charles Leclerc. And that difference was definitely much greater than what I experienced back in the day with Charles Leclerc at the Saudi Arabian Grand Prix. This is probably where I noticed the possible difference in difficulty the most. However, when I go into the race, I say to myself, I'm going to keep the maximum difficulty. I'm going to stick with that 110 for the race. I really wanted to check a 25% race in Saudi Arabia. And what do I find in this Saudi Arabian Grand Prix? What is it? Well, what you're going to see towards the end of the video is a segment, a summary of the race, and it turns out the race was easy. I mean, easy as in, by far, the easiest of all the ones I've had in this video. It was a bit difficult, but I managed the race. You'll see corners, where I get close and almost brake more, to avoid crashing. No difference from previous races on this circuit. The AI supposedly changed, but I noticed it only in qualifying, not in the race. We're talking about the maximum difficulty here, and I can say this with complete confidence. I don't notice any difference compared to what I've played before on this same circuit, with this same difficulty. The AI is supposed to have changed, but I noticed it in qualifying. In the race, not at all. And I think that's the perfect summary, and you'll see it throughout the video. I handled this race with ease, as if I were actually a couple of points below the difficulty I should be at. I usually notice very quickly when I'm playing above the difficulty I should be, below it, or exactly at the right level. Difficulty was high. In the Saudi Arabian Grand Prix, it was ideal. I managed easily, with good lap times. In this last one, I can assure you that not at all. I was at the right difficulty, and I would even dare to say that in this Saudi Arabian Grand Prix, I could have pushed it up another point if that were possible. But it isn't. We're at the maximum. But as I said, the feeling was that I was handling the race with ease, with the battery, and my lap times, as I mentioned, were really good compared to the AI. It definitely throws everything out the window because it seems there's no consistency or any kind of criteria. Yes, at first glance, it would seem correct that this change in difficulty appears to be about a tenth. I understand that they also say it depends on the circuit, it's more or less, but it's true that it seems to be more noticeable in qualifying than in the race. In the race, some circuits show differences, others don't, or at least I haven't noticed. It's subjective, based on personal experience. Regarding the AI change, I don't think it fixes anything. When we hear about increased AI difficulty, we expect more than a tenth, as it doesn't change much. Someone winning easily at 110 will still win easily. If it seemed easy before, a tenth won't change the game. To truly alter the AI, a much bigger leap in difficulty is needed. That is to say, the one who won easily in 110 is going to continue winning easily now. I think, seeing what I have been able to see in these various races, I think that if it seemed easy to someone before, a tenth is not going to change the situation for them. If you really wanted to change the paradigm you have with this AI, you needed to make a much bigger leap in difficulty. A significant leap in difficulty would be, if I usually play at around 107 or 108, and suddenly I have to drop down to 101, that would be a big change. For someone who found it more or less easy at 110, they might not think it's easy at all now. The game still has the same issues in terms of AI difficulty
And managing the R strengths.
which is a disaster, and the battery also contributes to all that monotony in the races. So, without further ado, I'll take my leave. I hope you enjoyed the video, and I'll see you in the next one.
Nicely done, everyone. Thank you.